On a cold December morning in Boulder, Colorado, on December 26, 1996, the Ramsey family's home was large and luxurious, a symbol of their success in the computer systems business. JonBenét Ramsey, a 6-year-old girl, was no ordinary child. She had already made a name for herself in the world of child beauty pageants, her poise and charm winning her multiple titles. Her parents, John and Patricia Patsy Ramsey, were proud of her accomplishments and the life they had built. Little did they know that on that day, everything they had worked for would be shattered, and their world would never be the same. At 5:52 a.m. on December 26th, Patsy discovered an unexpected and chilling ransom note on the stairs of their home. The note demanded $118,000 for JonBenét's safe return, a precise amount that matched the bonus John had recently received from his work. The note stated that if they contacted the police, their daughter would be killed. The family was instructed to wait for further instructions between 8 o'clock and 10 a.m. Patsy, in shock, immediately contacted the police. She was terrified for her daughter's safety. The clock was ticking, and the family's hopes were pinned on the police being able to find JonBenét before the kidnapper made good on their threat. Within an hour, officers arrived, and the house was soon swarming with law enforcement, friends, and neighbors. The police immediately began questioning those involved, but at this point, the house, with its sprawling layout and 15 rooms, had yet to be fully searched. The search itself was chaotic. The police and friends of the family frantically combed through the rooms, but no one thought to check the basement, a room that would hold the key to the mystery. As time passed and the hours ticked by, the police began to grow anxious, but there was no sign of JonBenét. By 1 p.m., the search had turned up nothing. Desperation was setting in when John Ramsey, JonBenét's father, decided to take matters into his own hands. He descended into the basement, a space that had been forgotten in the confusion. What he found there would haunt him for the rest of his life. JonBenét's small, lifeless body, hidden in a dark corner. Her hands and waist were bound, her mouth sealed with duct tape, and there were signs of blunt force trauma to her head. Her neck showed evidence of strangulation. As John and Patsy Ramsey discovered their daughter's body, their world came crashing down. The image of JonBenét's lifeless form, once full of laughter and energy, was now a chilling reminder of the unspeakable crime that had occurred in their home. The parents' grief was palpable as they collapsed in disbelief, holding their daughter's body, weeping uncontrollably. But their emotional reaction, though entirely understandable, would become a critical turning point in the investigation. Evidence was disturbed, crucial physical clues were compromised, and the crime scene was left exposed. The emotional weight of the moment was only the beginning of what would unfold in the coming hours. With law enforcement in charge of the investigation, the case soon took a darker turn. Initial evidence suggested the possibility of an internal cover-up. The ransom note, a strange and highly specific demand for $118,000, was written on paper with a pen that belonged to the Ramsey family. Police later determined that the handwriting on the note was likely that of a woman, and the family's exclusive cameraman, who had worked with them for years, confirmed that the handwriting resembled Patsy's. This revelation set off a chain of suspicions. Could it be that Patsy, the mother, was somehow involved? Could this crime be an inside job? The theory that someone from within the family had orchestrated the murder began to take shape, but this was just the beginning. Even more disturbing details emerged, casting shadows of doubt over the Ramsey family's innocence. The flashlight that caused the injuries to JonBenét's head was found in the Ramsey household, matching the injuries precisely. The garrote used to strangle JonBenét also appeared to have come from the house. Even more troubling, Fibers from Patsy's red sweater were found on the duct tape used to seal JonBenét's mouth. This was a bombshell. Was it possible that Patsy had been involved in some way? The police investigation soon turned its focus to the Ramsey family. They began to ask hard questions about their behavior. Why was there no sign of forced entry into the home? Why was there no panic in Patsy's voice during the phone call she made to the police, despite the abduction of her daughter? When the call was analyzed, experts noticed a peculiar detail: a voice in the background saying, "What should I do next?" This voice was identified as that of Burke, JonBenét's older brother. The parents had told the police that Burke had been asleep when the authorities arrived. But if his voice was heard in the background of the call, it meant their timeline was incorrect. This raised the question, could Burke have been involved? As the investigation deepened, new theories began to surface. The possibility that Burke, in a fit of rage, had accidentally struck his sister with a flashlight after a petty argument over a pineapple JonBenet had eaten during the night seemed plausible. Some speculated that the blow to her head could have been fatal. When the parents realized she was dead, the theory went. They panicked and staged the entire kidnapping. Burke's involvement became a key point in the investigation, but again, no physical evidence tied him to the crime. Despite the mounting suspicions and the growing theories surrounding the Ramsey family, the police investigation failed to produce any conclusive evidence. The case went cold. The mystery of JonBenét's death seemed as though it might never be solved. As months passed, the Ramsey family found themselves increasingly alienated by both the public and the media. The pressure of being the prime suspects in their daughter's murder began to tear at the family. Patsy and John Ramsey publicly maintained their innocence, but the toll of the investigation, the media scrutiny, and the unanswered questions about their daughter's death weighed heavily on them. In 1998, a breakthrough came when DNA samples collected at the crime scene were analyzed using more advanced technology. The results showed that the DNA did not match anyone in the Ramsey family. For a brief time, this cleared them of suspicion. However, the case remained open, with questions still lingering. In 2003, a man named Michael Helges came under investigation. Helges, a local resident, had been known for his unusual affection for children. He owned a stun gun, a weapon that matched one found at the crime scene. The police began to explore the possibility that Helges could be the killer, especially after another incident involving the abduction and assault of a young girl. Helges, however, attempted suicide, and his DNA did not match the evidence from the case. He became yet another suspect whose involvement would never be confirmed. A shocking twist emerged in 2006 when a man named John Mark Carr confessed to JonBenét's murder while in Thailand. He claimed her death had been an accident. Carr was extradited to the United States, where his DNA was tested and found to be a match to none of the evidence from the crime scene. Carr's confession, like so many before it, turned out to be a false lead. In 2016, Burke Ramsey finally broke his silence and spoke publicly about the case. He denied any involvement in JonBenét's death, but made a shocking comment, suggesting that the murderer could have been a pedophile who had seen JonBenet in a beauty contest. His calm demeanor during the interview, particularly the way he smiled while discussing his sister's tragic death, raised more questions about his possible involvement. This peculiar behavior, coupled with his apparent lack of emotion, reignited the public's suspicion. The case reached another unexpected turn in 2019 when Gary Oliver, a man incarcerated for child pornography offenses, wrote a letter confessing to the murder of JonBenet. He described her death as an accident, but once again, the evidence didn't support his confession. Oliver had lived near the Ramsey family's house at the time, and disturbing images of JonBenet were found in his collection. However, his DNA did not match the evidence found at the scene, and police were unable to confirm his involvement. As of 2020, the investigation continues, though no clear answers have emerged. The truth remains hidden, and the mystery of JonBenét Ramsey's death continues to haunt those who have followed the case over the years. With the advent of new DNA testing and investigative techniques, there is hope that one day the truth will come to light. However, whether the Ramsey family's innocence is finally confirmed or if a new suspect will emerge remains to be seen. Through all the false confessions, the accusations, the public scrutiny, and the unanswered questions, one thing remains certain. The case of JonBenét Ramsey is a dark chapter in American criminal history. The search for justice continues, but for now, the murder of JonBenét remains a chilling and unresolved mystery.